Today, we're here to discuss the supply chain management of Apple Inc., a global technology leader renowned for its innovative consumer electronics, software, and online services. Apple's supply chain, a complex network of suppliers, manufacturers, and transportation providers, plays a critical role in efficiently delivering its products to customers worldwide. In this presentation, we're going to be providing a comprehensive assessment of Apple's supply chain management within the technology sector, focusing specifically on their current practices in manufacturing, inventory management, sourcing, transportation, logistics, and reverse logistics. By benchmarking all these strategies against the industry standards and best practices, we aim to identify areas for improvement and potential vulnerabilities. Moreover, we're going to be offering recommendations from two perspectives, from risk management and sustainability.
Okay, so regarding Apple's manufacturing process, we have identified that Apple sources their components from almost 200 different companies all around the world. They put all of these pieces together mainly in China, although there are other assembly lines, but mainly in China. And the biggest one is owned by Foxconn, one of the most important Apple suppliers, and it's located in Zhenhong, China, and it can produce up to 500,000 units a day, working normally at around 90% full capacity, although currently they are experiencing some reduced capacity due to COVID restrictions. And they are looking to expand to India and Vietnam as to not rely so much on China. Regarding Apple's greenhouse gas emissions, the company has reduced their emissions by 40% since 2015, and they aim to reduce them completely by 2030. We have identified one main manufacturing challenge that Apple is facing, and it is their conditions on Foxconn's China assembly line, which has been heavily investigated, and it has been proven to violate several health standards, living and working conditions, and also overtime. And this is very bad reputation for Apple, so that is something that they need to work on to control.
Apple has incredible inventory management. The company turns over their annual inventory 38 times per year, which means they're holding very little inventory considering their amount of goods sold. They use a centralized, just-in-time collaborative system of supplier management where they focus on long-term relationships and investment into technology and innovation in order to integrate these suppliers. Apple has multi-channel delivery, which ensures customer satisfaction because the customer can choose which method is best for them. They have 5 different methods, from in-store pickup all the way to in-store setup. Now, a key issue for Apple here is the forecasting of demand. Apple only creates a finite number of models when they are initially launching a product, and so if they undersell, they disappoint customers and lose sales. So this is an important component. In terms of sourcing, Apple has 4 kind of components under sourcing. Their sourcing strategy is centralized with a procurement department which does all the purchasing negotiation, which gives them a lot of negotiating power. Most of their manufacturers sit in Asia, but they also purchase a lot from Australia. The vendor evaluation is a multi-step process, and all of the requirements are set out in a public document, which varies from requirements on labor to wage distribution and even remittances. The conflict minerals policy has been an issue for Apple in the past because of where these rare resources are typically mined. In 2021, it forced Apple to remove 12 of their suppliers, and all of this information relating to their suppliers is documented annually in their supplier relationship report, which I think is incredible. Now, finally, the key risk here under sourcing for them is commodity risk. With growing prices of these different components and technological components as a result of growing tech companies, they become more expensive and the suppliers become more powerful. This allows them to negotiate with the suppliers better rates, and it reduces Apple's negotiating power with relation to other buyers.
I'm going to be analyzing Apple's transportation and logistics. So Apple is Cathay Pacific's largest freight customer, and it generally prefers to transport most of its products by air rather than by sea, as it allows Apple to move its products far more quickly, with products being transported from China to the US in just about 15 hours instead of the usual 30-day time frame for sea transport. Although this is more costly to Apple on a per unit basis, it becomes more cost efficient when considering the opportunity cost of financing the inventory during the lengthy shipping period.
Apple's logistics are crucial for this success. A bit of background about this. They have a wide network of distribution centers aimed at serving customers in 100 plus different countries. However, they only have retail stores in selected 25 countries, which aim at expanding product availability and increasing customer experience. From an efficiency standpoint, they have partnered with third-party logistics providers, including UPS, DHL, and FedEx, which offer warehousing, transport, and other value-add services just because they're specialized. Apple's warehouse management employs just-in-time inventory management, and they also use warehouse management systems to track data and provide real-time insights into what really goes on. However, they do face a series of challenges, which mainly include dealing with increased demand, especially when new products launch, and coordination between suppliers and manufacturers, given that they outsource their tasks. Now let's discuss Apple's reverse logistics and buyback program. So they have in place a reverse logistics system that essentially manages returns, repairs, refurbishments, and recycling, while obviously adhering to national and environmental regulations. Also, they have a buyback program in place that allows customers essentially to trade in both Apple and non-Apple devices, and then offering obviously incentives like discounts on new Apple products. This program obviously contributes to the circular economy, and it majorly aims at reducing electronic waste. Some noteworthy data points include Apple recycling over 42,000 metric tons of electronic waste back in 2020, as seen in their yearly report. And they also account for over 25% of trade-in smartphones in the US market, which is obviously an incredible achievement and gives them a lot of material to work with, aside from preventing millions of smartphones ending up in landfills.
Regarding risk management, Apple is currently looking to diversify their suppliers. This is something that will allow them to not rely so much on China. Currently, China has a lot of COVID restrictions, also a lot of tensions with the US regarding Taiwan, and also they faced the protests in their assembly lines due to the working conditions, and therefore they should aim to diversify their suppliers to other countries such as Vietnam or India. Also, Apple needs to control their suppliers' actions. With this, we mean that they need to avoid scandals that were like what Bailey mentioned before regarding the mining of minerals, which is something that hurts Apple's reputation. Of course, it's not done directly by Apple, but it's done by their suppliers, and overall it hurts Apple's reputation. And therefore, we suggest they conduct training, awareness courses, and also regular checks by Apple representatives to avoid these situations from happening in the future. Lastly, we suggest Apple should do something similar to what Amazon is doing by buying their own trucks and aircrafts to control and have a more flexible supply chain. Basically, they will control the transportation logistics. This is a form of vertical integration, and it has been proven to work very well for Amazon. And this will avoid Apple from suffering delays like what just happened with the iPhone 14. Also, they will reduce costs and increase their overall supply chain flexibility.
Lastly, we're going to discuss and provide some recommendations to improve Apple's approach to sustainability. They can enhance sustainability, for instance, by partnering with ethical suppliers, like the case of Tesla and Glencore, to make sure cobalt is ethically sourced. They could follow Dell's example by providing sustainable packaging sourced from the ocean. For logistics, they could take IKEA's example, pledging to only use 100% electric vehicles for their home deliveries. For inventory management, they could also follow Amazon's example by implementing advanced and sustainable technologies within their warehouses to reduce costs. And finally, and more importantly, Apple should ensure their supply chain is transparent to ensure that they comply with ethical and other label practices, which might backfire to them in the future.
In terms of our key findings, we have divided them into 4 categories. So the first one would be the actual supply chain. We have found that Apple has a very, very large supply chain and very geographically dispersed. The second one would be renewable energy. So the use of non-renewable energy sources poses a threat for risk management and also significant environmental risks. In terms of transparency, there's a lack of transparency and traceability in Apple's supply chain, and that is a major challenge as well for risk management. And it also has certain environmental or sustainability concerns. And finally, we have the supplier code of conduct. In this area, while Apple has made decent work, for example, in aspects such as labor and, for example, human rights issues. However, there's still room for improvement in worker empowerment and compensation policies. Now, in terms of the recommendations we have made, so this is just a summary. There are more recommendations in the report, but we would like to point out 4 of them. So the first one would be increased transparency and traceability, and this would be done through the use of new digital technologies such as the blockchain or IoT. Also, to invest into renewable energy sources, and not only that, but also work with suppliers, towards a low carbon economy or hopefully a no carbon economy. Then the next recommendation would be to strengthen supplier relationships, and this would be, for example, by prioritizing sustainability and social responsibility in the evaluation and selection process of suppliers, of course. And finally, another recommendation would be to empower workers trying to improve worker conditions, and this would be done, of course, through collaboration with suppliers and also through worker organizations. And now, in terms of the impact that we believe these recommendations are going to have in Apple itself, so financially, we believe there might be a increased costs in the short run, but if done properly, might translate into an increased cost efficiency in the future, so therefore increased cost savings. And the use of we believe the use of renewable sources are key in this aspect, in this area. Now, in terms of public perception, since clients are demanding more and more ethical and sustainable products, we believe this will only better Apple's brand image and increase sales. And finally, in terms of relationships, Apple will obviously have to switch suppliers and enter into a transition period, but this will translate into a more resilient and sustainable supply chain in the future.